This is the lowest end graphics card in 2023 that still receives driver support from NVIDIA, which I was able to get for free. So without further delay, let's cue the intro and see how this performs in 2023. This video is sponsored by me, so if you enjoy the content and you're looking for a gaming computer and you live locally to me, then click on the description below and check out the computers I have for sale. Now let's get into the content. Hey, what is going on everybody? Welcome back to the most underrated tech channel. And this is the GT 1030 2GB GDDR5 version that's also passively cooled from EVGA. Now you are probably questioning how I got it for free. Well, it's because I pulled it out of a pre-built that I bought for cheap, and to me, the PC without the graphics card already covered the price that I paid for. Anyways, this graphics card, if you want to buy it brand new, it still goes for around 130 plus Canadian dollars on Amazon, but I'm pretty sure you could pick one up locally for under 50 bucks. Also, keep in mind that I am always talking about the GDDR5 version and not the total garbage DDR4 version that a lot of YouTubers tell us to stay away from. Now, with the graphics card clean, let's talk about the system I tested with. It's a white and orange themed gaming PC that is running a Ryzen 5 5600 non-X 6-core 12-threaded CPU, which has precision boost overdrive enabled on an ASRock A320M Pro 4 motherboard paired up with 32GB of DDR4 running at 3600 MHz with a 1TB glow-away NVMe as the boot and storage device, which will all be powered by a 650W 80+ gold power supply that is also semi-modular. By the way, by the time this video is uploaded, this PC would have sold for 1,250 Canadian dollars with an RTX 3070 inside. But with all that said, let's get into the gaming benchmarks. Oh yeah, for those of you that care, I am running the latest driver at the time of recording, which is the 535.98 version, and hopefully they don't have a new driver by the time this video is out. First up, I tested in Rainbow Six Siege with the low preset, which means that I did not change the anti-aliasing this time, and the GT 1030 was able to get an average of 80 FPS with a minimum of 63 FPS. And this time I did try to play the game, but I'm pretty ass, so yeah, I deleted the footage. The second game I tested was Warhammer Vermintide 2. At the lowest preset in DX12, I was able to get an average of 72 FPS. And honestly, this really surprised me because this game, even though it's not the newest, is still pretty demanding on hardware. Next up, I tested in Cyberpunk 2077 with the lowest possible settings, as well as turning on FSR 2.1 to ultra performance mode because DLSS is somehow hardware locked, but it was able to get an average of 30 FPS with a minimum of 17 FPS, which really impresses me because I would have thought that this card could only run the game at like 15 to 20 FPS average. So for those of you that are broke, the GT 1030 would be a really good card to play this game with the Xbox 360 level graphics and performance. After that, I tested in Apex Legends at the lowest possible settings with the dynamic resolution FPS scaling thingy turned to 100 FPS. I was able to get an average of 67 FPS with a 1% low of 38 FPS. And honestly, if you have a GT 1030, just upgrade if you want to play Apex, because the whole time I was benchmarking, it was an eyesore. Talking about eyesore, in Warzone 2.0 at the lowest possible settings with the NVIDIA image scaling on performance mode, this graphics card was able to achieve an average of 34 FPS with a 1% low of 16 FPS. Now onto SpiderMan Remastered at the lowest possible settings with FSR 2.1 at ultra performance mode. This little graphics card was able to squeeze out an average of 26 FPS with a 1% low of 14 FPS. This level of performance is kind of expected, and I would say it's pretty playable if you want a cinematic, although a really ugly cinematic frame rate experience. Then after that is Overwatch 2 at the low preset with no FSR. I got an average of 76 FPS with a 1% low of 54 FPS. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, this actually disappointed me because I thought it would at least get 100 FPS on low preset. But I'm sure with FSR 2.1 enabled, we could probably reach that 100 FPS mark. Now onto the second last game, I tested in Valorant at the lowest settings. I was able to get an average of 293 FPS with a 1% low of 165 FPS. But this result, I mean, it's mostly carried by the CPU. Finally, the last game I tested was at Fortnite with the Performance API. I got an average of 136 FPS with a 1% low of 29 FPS. With this performance, I mean, it's pretty good for a casual player. So overall, this graphics card is pretty good for free, or if you could get this card for around $10, it's a pretty good find. Otherwise, like and subscribe, and you should just go for one of those R9 graphics cards from AMD, which I made a video for that is up on the screen right now.